It was an accident. Marcus must have jumped in front of the car. My mother's voice echoed through the hospital corridor, desperately trying to convince the nurse. I lay in the emergency room bed, my ribs screaming in pain with every breath, listening to my family spin their lies. My name is Marcus Anderson. I'm 24, and last night my father deliberately hit me with his car. Now, as I watched my family scramble to protect him, I realized this was the moment everything would change. Mrs. Anderson, the impact pattern suggests otherwise. The nurse replied firmly, her eyes darting between my mother's desperate face and my father's stone-cold expression. I could see my younger sister Emma hovering nervously in the background, avoiding eye contact. He's always been dramatic, my father declared, his voice carrying that familiar, authoritative tone that had silenced our family for years, probably trying to get attention again. You know how these young people are these days. I closed my eyes, remembering how it all started just 24 hours ago. I had finally stood up to him, finally found the courage to tell him I was leaving the family business to pursue my dreams of becoming a marine biologist. His face had turned that dangerous shade of purple I'd known since childhood. "You ungrateful piece of trash," he had snarled, cornering me in our driveway. "After everything I've built for this family, you want to throw it away to play with fish." I had stood my ground, for once not backing down. "It's my life, Dad. I've spent 6 years working in your company, trying to be the son you wanted. I'm done." That's when I saw it, that flash in his eyes that always preceded violence. But this time was different. Instead of his fists, he got into his car. I still remember the sound of the engine revving, the screech of tires on asphalt. I remember thinking he was just trying to scare me, right until the moment the bumper made contact with my body. "Marcus," a gentle voice pulled me back to the present. Mr. Sullivan, my 78-year-old neighbor, stood in the doorway of my hospital room. His weathered face was etched with concern, his hands clutching something. "Mr. Sullivan." My voice cracked. He'd been the one to call the ambulance, the first person to reach me after the impact. "Get out," my father barked. "This is a family matter." Mr. Sullivan didn't flinch. Instead, he turned to the nurse. "I have something you need to see." He held up a small device, his Dashcam. My father's face went pale. "I installed it last month after that string of car break-ins," Mr. Sullivan explained, his voice steady. "It has a perfect view of the Anderson driveway." The room fell silent. My mother's nervous chatter ceased. Emma's fidgeting stopped. My father's commanding presence seemed to deflate. "That's not necessary," my father started, but the nurse was already reaching for the device. "Actually, sir," she said firmly, "in cases of suspected intentional injury, we're required to review all available evidence." I watched my father's carefully constructed facade begin to crack. His hands, usually so steady, started to tremble. My mother's makeup-perfect face crumpled as she realized their version of events was about to be challenged by irrefutable evidence. "Marcus," my father's voice took on that dangerously soft tone he used when trying to manipulate situations. "Son, we can work this out as a family. There's no need to involve outsiders." But I wasn't that scared kid anymore. Mr. Sullivan's presence, his unwavering support, gave me strength I didn't know I had. "Play it," I told the nurse, my voice stronger than I expected. "Play all of it." As the nurse left with the Dashcam, presumably to show it to the doctors and possibly the police, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear in my father's eyes. The same fear he'd instilled in me for so many years. Mr. Sullivan moved closer to my bed, positioning himself like a shield between me and my family. "You're not alone, son," he said quietly. "Not anymore." For the first time since the impact, I felt tears well up in my eyes. Not from pain, but from relief. Years of carefully constructed lies were about to come crashing down, and surprisingly, I was ready for whatever came next. The truth, like Mr. Sullivan's Dashcam, had been watching silently all along, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The police arrived within an hour of viewing the Dashcam footage. I watched from my hospital bed as they led my father away in handcuffs, his face a mask of cold fury. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing about family loyalty, while Emma stood frozen, finally forced to confront the reality she'd helped deny for years. The footage clearly shows premeditated intent, Officer Martinez explained, flipping through her notes. "The car stopped, reversed, then deliberately accelerated toward you. Mr. Sullivan's dashcam captured everything, including the verbal altercation beforehand. My mother's head snapped up. "You don't understand," she pleaded. Marcus provoked him. He threatened to destroy everything we built. By pursuing an education. Mr. Sullivan interrupted sharply. "I heard everything, Diana. Your son said he wanted to be a marine biologist. That's hardly a family crisis worthy of attempted vehicular homicide." The doctor returned with my x-rays, pointing out the 3 broken ribs, severe bruising, and minor internal bleeding. Each injury she described seemed to chip away at my mother's defensive wall. "We'll need to keep you for observation for at least 3 days, the doctor explained. The impact could have caused complications we haven't detected yet. As she spoke, I noticed Emma edging closer to my bed. Her face had lost its usual confident mask, replaced by something that looked almost like guilt. "Marcus," she whispered when the doctor left. I'm sorry. I should have said something years ago." Years ago. Officer Martinez's attention shifted to my sister. "Has there been previous violence?" Emma's eyes darted to our mother, who was shaking her head frantically. For a moment, I thought Emma would retreat back into denial. But something had changed. "Dad's been violent since we were kids," she said, her voice trembling. "But never with a car before. Usually it was just his fists. Mom always covered for him, taught us to cover for him too. Said it would ruin the family if anyone knew." Officer Martinez's pen moved quickly across her notepad. My mother had stopped crying, her face now twisted with anger. "How dare you?" she hissed to Emma. "After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done." Mr. Sullivan's voice cut through the room like steel. "I've watched for 15 years as you've covered up that man's violence. Heard the shouting, seen the bruises. I kept quiet, convinced myself it wasn't my place. Well, not anymore." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through what looked like a photo gallery. "I've documented everything I've witnessed since moving next door. Dates, times, photographs of injuries I've observed. I may be old, but I know how to use a smartphone." The color draining from my mother's face. Our family's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, and she was losing control of the narrative she'd maintained for decades. "You can't do this," she whispered. "We're respected in this community. William's business." "We'll survive without him," I interrupted, finding strength in the support surrounding me. "The company has a board of directors. They'll distance themselves from him as soon as this goes public." Emma moved closer, taking my hand. It was the first genuine gesture of support she'd shown in years. "I'll testify," she said quietly, "about everything. No more covering up." Officer Martinez nodded approvingly. "We'll need formal statements from both of you. Mr. Sullivan, your documentation will be invaluable to the case." My mother stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You'll regret this," she said, but her voice lacked its usual authority. "All of you. This family isn't a family I finished for her. It's a prison. And we're breaking out." She stormed out, her heels clicking down the hospital corridor. Emma watched her go, then turned back to me with tears in her eyes. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Mr. Sullivan said gently, "you both get to live your lives without fear. And Marcus," he turned to me with a smile, "you get to study those fish." For the first time since the incident, I felt myself smile. The pain in my ribs was still intense, but another kind of pain, one I'd carried for years, was finally beginning to lift. Officer Martinez finished taking our initial statements, promising to return tomorrow for more detailed interviews. As she left, she paused at the door. "You're very brave," she said. "Both of you. And Mr. Sullivan, the community needs more people like you." The old man blushed, waving off the compliment, but I could see the pride in his eyes. He'd done what so many others hadn't. He'd stood up, spoken out, and saved someone in the process. As the night settled in, Emma curled up in the chair beside my bed, unwilling to go home. Mr. Sullivan insisted on staying too, saying he'd grown too old to sleep much anyway. For the first time in my life, I felt truly protected, truly safe. The truth had finally broken free, captured forever on a neighbor's dash cam and in the brave hearts of those who refused to stay silent. 6 months later, I stood at the edge of a research vessel, watching the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean. My marine biology graduate program had accepted me for their winter research expedition, studying whale migration patterns. The salty air stunned my healing ribs, but the pain was a reminder of how far I'd come. The trial had concluded last month. My father was sentenced to 7 years for attempted murder and previous domestic abuse charges. Emma's testimony, combined with Mr. Sullivan's years of documentation and the dashcam footage, had made the case airtight. My mother, unable to face the community's judgment, had moved to Arizona to live with her sister. "Hey, Marcus," called Dr. Harrison, my research supervisor. "The hydrophone's picking up some interesting sounds. Want to take a listen?" I smiled, making my way carefully across the deck. This was my life now, studying marine ecosystems, contributing to scientific research, living without fear. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from Emma. "Guess what? Got accepted to law school. Going to specialize in domestic violence cases. You inspired me, big brother." My eyes welled up as I typed a reply. Emma had transformed over these months, channeling her guilt into action. She'd moved in with our Aunt Martha, started therapy, and decided to use her experience to help others escape abusive situations. Another message popped up, this one from Mr. Sullivan. "Check your email when you can. Sent you pictures of the garden. Those seeds you recommended are flourishing." The old man had become family in every way that mattered. He turned his front yard into a marine-themed garden, complete with blue flowers and water features, saying it was his way of supporting my dreams. Every Sunday, he and Emma had dinner together, keeping each other company while I was at sea. "Marcus," Dr. Harrison called again. "You've got to hear this." I put on the headphones she offered, listening to the haunting songs of humpback whales. These magnificent creatures, communicating across vast distances, reminded me of how far my own voice had carried once I found the courage to use it. The criminal investigation had revealed more than just my father's violence. Financial audits of his company uncovered years of fraud and embezzlement. The board of directors, as I predicted, had quickly distanced themselves, restructuring the company under new leadership. Some of our former family friends had shown their true colors, choosing to believe my mother's claims of family betrayal. But others, particularly those who'd suspected the abuse but stayed silent, now reached out with support and apologies. Emma had received a substantial settlement from the company, which she'd split with me despite my protests. "Use it for your research," she'd insisted. "I want your dreams to help pay for mine." The sun was fully up now, painting the ocean in shades of gold. Dr. Harrison appeared beside me, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Your latest research proposal is impressive," she said, handing me a cup. "The grant committee is particularly interested in your ideas about marine sanctuary expansion." I nodded, taking a sip. "I've been thinking about protection," I replied. "How sometimes the smallest actions can create safe spaces for those who need them most." She smiled knowingly. The marine biology community wasn't large. She'd heard about my story, though she never pressed for details. "Like a certain neighbor with a dashcam?" she asked gently. "Exactly," I said. "One person willing to pay attention, to document, to speak up, it can change everything." My phone buzzed again. A group message from Emma. "Monthly dinner at Mr. Sullivan's this Sunday. He's making his famous clam chowder in honor of your whale research. Says the ocean theme is non-negotiable." I laughed, showing Dr. Harrison the message. She'd become familiar with my unusual but precious family through our long talks during night watches. "You know," she said, "there's a position opening up at the Coastal Research Center. It would mean less time at sea, but more opportunity to develop your sanctuary proposals. Plus, you'd be closer to home." Home. The word held new meaning now. Not the prison of my childhood, but the safe harbor I found with Emma and Mr. Sullivan. A place where dreams were encouraged, not crushed. "I'll think about it," I said, turning back to the horizon. The whales were breaching in the distance, their massive forms rising and falling with grace and power. Like them, I had learned to rise above the surface, to breathe freely, to sing my own song. My father had tried to silence me with violence, but he'd only succeeded in setting me free. Now, surrounded by the endless ocean and infinite possibilities, I was exactly where I was meant to be. The morning sun sparkled on the waves, promising another day of discovery. In my pocket, my phone held messages of love and support from my real family. And somewhere out there, the truth continued to ripple outward, touching other lives, creating new sanctuaries, one brave voice at a time.